Jimmy McAlliott found the net. Goal for Wednesday.
Terrific goal by Shayna.
Chris Waddle, is he going to have a crack?
Oh, he does, and he scores. Still Glenn Wheeler. Aidan Flynn wins the goal. It's the time for a winner.
Well, are we nearing the end? The net seems to be finally closing in on him being the dictator that is Dejphon Chansiri. We're, of course, talking about the news that a winding up order from the Hmrc is supposed to be imminent and can be served in a matter of days. Hello and welcome to Wednesday Slide Our podcast. I'm James Mappin, and alongside me for this emergency podcast is Mr. Matt Johnson. Matt, we're back with another emergency pod. Someone said on over on the socials that more emergency pods than points, and we're nearly there. Maybe we are there. Maybe we've surpassed that. I don't know. I've lost count now, mate.
I suppose it goes off, when does the last season end and the new one begin? You know, like when does the new season start? When does the clock reset on it? I think if we roll it back to summer, I think the first couple must have been in last season. Whereas this year, I think we're probably on for a steady 4 or 5 of them so far. More coming, no doubt.
Well, we're well overdue one, which is probably why there's been such a clamour for us to talk this evening. I mean, I was only on yesterday for what felt like a day, you know, nearly 2 hours it was yesterday, and we're back on again. You know, people will be saying in the comments we're on more than Coronation Street and things like that. But anyway, do get in the comments. I can see a lot, very, very lively already. I'll try and read out as many as I possibly can. Matt, let's see who is in here before we get on. Neil says, "Evening, gents." Chris says, "I still think he'll find the money from someone." Emma, in the same vein, "He'll find a way out of it. He always does." Graham, "He found some magic beans to pay the staff after they threatened him." This is a good one from Michael. He says, "Very sad news if we cease to exist. Very sad news for me personally, as I'll be £5,500 down as I bought a 10-year season ticket. What was I thinking?" John, "Emergency pod, James. I was right." Yes, there was. Well, I was umming and ahhing whether to do one, because obviously, you know, nothing's actually happened. You know, it was just news that it's on the horizon. But you know, there were so many people that said, "Are we doing one?" And I thought, well, why not? Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it, because I know it's a very emotive subject. Right, let's get straight into it then, Matt. First of all, Matt, what did you? This kind of broke at lunchtime. I got wind of it only slightly before that, but yeah, what did you know when it came out that, you know, Hmrc could be issuing a winding up order or on the verge of doing so? What was your initial reaction, Matt?
First off, it distracted me massively from my lunchtime duty, I'll be honest with you, James, on the field while I was trying not to get attacked by seagulls. Aside from that, yeah.
Where'd you work? Blackpool?
Yeah, Blackpool, mate. Yeah. But it's that Peter Kay sketch, isn't it? What you could have won at a speedboat. Where do you live? Tamworth, 200 miles to the nearest water. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it is a really weird situation, because you just become really numb to the entire thing over and over again. And I do understand the mass panic and feeling amongst many in the fan base today, and the explosion of what feels like news coming out left, right, and centre, and people talking about it, and people their focus being firmly back on the chairman and the ownership situation rather than the stuff that we've been seeing over the last week. How do I feel about it? Again, we've had Kieran Maguire on the pod a number of times, obviously over the past couple of months, talking about this. And the thing, I suppose, for myself, who was obviously involved in those discussions, the thing that I've always took from this is it could get here, like it could get to this point. I'd be more surprised if it had got to this. And you know, there had been, you know, it had only been 2 or 3 months into the whole situation, to be perfectly honest with you. I still think the speed of it is terrifying when you look at actually how quickly this has all fallen apart, because in May, things were poor, but they were kind of ticking along as...
Mate, in January, we were thinking about getting in the bloody playoffs.
and then Ibrahim Sissoko got brought in.
That's how. I mean, we're talking about how quick we're in October. We're not even 12 months on from that fact, and we are now talking about potentially playoffs. Like, all right, absolute pipe dream, but it was there to now being not even existing. That in 10 months.
Yeah,
Mental.
and that is the thing, is because realistically we only started hearing about we knew there was financial trouble at Sheffield Wednesday. We've known that for a long time, but the severity of this situation only started coming to supporters' eyes, our eyes, and real consciousness from April onwards, when we failed to pay the wages, and then into May, and then we saw the mass exodus of playing staff, obviously over the summer, because we didn't renew multiple contracts. Nothing new at Sheffield Wednesday, but then we didn't replace them. That is a big worry. We saw multiple players threatening to leave, 2 of whom did, through non-payment of wages. We saw, obviously, the summer, and we're only at the second international break. And
played 9 games.
Yeah, and the speed at which all of this has happened, that is, I think, where I still wouldn't put us in the same situation as Morecambe, Bury, Southend, those type of clubs, because of the Blackpool, because of the nature of it. I think we are in the conversation with Blackpool. I think we're in the conversation with Reading. I don't class us in the same situation as the other clubs, just because actually that happened over a slightly more prolonged period of time. And actually there was a lot of end games. Southend will obviously talk about a little bit more, and their multiple number of winding up petitions that were issued against them as we kind of get onto it. But yeah, you haven't had time to really build up the fear, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean by that, James?
Yeah, because it has just suddenly come, like you mentioned, come around really quickly, and I think every time it has been spoken about, everyone always reaches for worst case scenario, but then everyone keeps going, well, we'll never get there, or he'll have sold it by then, or something will have happened. But every time it's no, that's not happened. He'll pay the players. Well, he hasn't done 5 times out of the last 7 on time. We've got. And he pays them now, but we're literally 2 weeks away from another payment. So he's got to fight. I feel like the whole situation is like the whole spinning plates scenario with Dej at the moment, and this he's been managing to spin them. They're nearly falling, but he's managed to keep them spinning. Well, now some are on the verge of falling and smashing as well, and he's just not. He's barely keeping his head above the water at the moment, and it's just really sad. And I think you said it there, just kind of numb to it all. This should be absolutely devastating news to anyone else, but because we've been smashed over the head so many times with bad news after bad news, it's like the pain of the players is actually celebrated at Sheffield Wednesday as if it's like a monumental moment in our history of the football club. Like, it's just when it happens in 2 weeks' time and the players haven't been paid, we'll just go, all right, yeah, kind of knew that was going to happen. It's not really. There's not like no anger anymore. I did ask on Twitter only fairly recently, actually about half an hour ago, what people's initial reaction was. Matt says, I think I'm numb to it all now. Nothing seems to shock me anymore. Andrew says, sadness at first. There's always the fear we won't be saved, but after the initial shock, I'm hopeful it might be the beginning of the end. I think you'll see as well, it's quite mixed messaging. Some is sadness, some is anger. Yeah. Some is actually happy and like thinking, and thinking that this is going to be the beginning of the end. Gary says, in most circumstances, you'd think this makes a takeover more certain, but because the person we are dealing with, there has to be a real concern as to if this is the end. Yeah, and like I just before we came on, Matt, I was reading some of the statements, the many statements that have now dried up now. Again, I mentioned it before, the irony that we were telling him to stop giving us all these statements, and now we're actually like pleading for him to come out and say something. He's literally gone full 180. But it was the one that stands out. I think it was I can't remember, early on this year or last year, and he said about the protest, and he said, I'm going to stop funding the football club. I mean. Yeah.
I think October and February post Leeds, there was a very emotional reaction. And when I say, was it January, February, when the 1867 group did the yellow posters again for Leeds away, and it was on ITV, and there was lots of unconfirmed reports of how furious he was in said director's box and marching down corridors about all the rest of it. Again, it's the speed at which this has happened, as you say, and it's the... there's a lot of stuff surrounding, allegedly, potentially people who are going to be there on Saturday for the game, and people who are potentially associated to the club. And there's rumours flying around that Chansiri himself will be there, and yada. You just, again, at this moment in time, it's dealing with what the news is in front of you, which is there is a report out there from lots of reputable journalists that Sheffield Wednesday could be placed or face a winding up order in the not too distant future.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of go over like what we know. As you mentioned, it was reported by Alex Miller, The Star, Rob Staten of Radio Sheffield, and Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail. And they said it's understood that Sheffield Wednesday are close to being issued with a winding up order by the HMRC over an unpaid tax bill, which is to the tune of around about £1 million. I think it's just shy of £1 million. Obviously, we already know that the club owe money to various other different people or organisations, companies, etc. We're under embargoes for that very reason. We know that players have only just been paid 2 weeks later than they should have been paid, and he's in a whole world of pain, certainly financially anyway. I also want to stress as well that this is a winding up order or a petition, not administration, because I think some people have been getting a little bit confused with both. Obviously, at the moment, it's secured creditors that can issue a winding up order petition to recover the money that's owed to them. And that would, they end up going to court for that to settle the dispute. And that's what's said to happen here with the HMRC. And it is usually the HMRC that do that in these scenarios. Matt, I think you probably spent your lunch break looking at some more information as to what a winding up order actually is, if you want to just share that.
Yeah, I mean, for anybody who is, I would really encourage you to type in, obviously, what is a winding up order, but the article that you're looking particularly for is Company Rescue. The website is companyrescue.co.uk. There is a lot of information on there surrounding what it actually means, and I'm sure there will be people who are far more knowledgeable than myself in the chat who will be able to fill in any of the gaps there.
Hey, you spoke to Kieran Maguire that many times, Matt. I'm sure it's not rubbed off. I'm sure you've got some sort of qualification now. You must have.
I describe myself as very much a B-Tech or a Timu version of Kieran Maguire, I'll be completely honest with you.
Hey, do you know what? To be fair, someone sent me on a DM around about lunchtime the meme from The Office where it's like, go and get they've been on ChatGPT and they've put my face and Kieran Maguire's.
Yeah.
All I can say is I look like a cross between myself and Carl Pilkington, if that's even possible. It's not a great look, I'll put it that way. But anyway.
No, so effectively what happens is if a company or a football club in this instance is served with a winding up order, it means that effectively all other means of trying to claim the funds back from that business, in this case a football club, all means of settling the debt have been unsuccessful. So this isn't the first time that HMRC have contacted requesting this money and this money hasn't been paid. Now we know that is the case.
I suppose as well that's going to be not just this one, but it's not our first rodeo, is it, with HMRC? Yeah. So it's kind of repeated non-payment of HMRC in it, really. Like, you don't pay it once and then you kind of get your house in order, but he clearly hasn't, because he's continuing to do the same thing over and over again. And you shouldn't ever be late with the tax bill. Just my understanding of all this is very limited, but you collect the tax, do you not? From that's the money that you're going to give to your employers. You collect that money and then you give that to the tax man. So the fact that he's not got it is, I mean, again, I don't own a I can't talk to Shanti because I don't own a business. So I don't know. People will probably tell me, well, you use this money for this, that, and the other. But the fact that he's done it over and over and over again, they're probably just pissed off and like, well, know what? We're not going to give you another chance anymore. We're just going to go straight to the, we're going to get the money, basically.
Yeah, effectively, this is the nuclear option, and we've been talking about nuclear options in various different avenues of Sheffield Wednesday for a while. But this is effectively where HMRC are saying to the club, it has to be wound up because it simply cannot pay its debts. Now, we've known this. We've known this for a long, long time. You can go back to a multitude of different things where Sheffield Wednesday has been able to satisfy its financial obligations, from player wages to staff wages to owing £50,000 to Norwich for Akinfenmewo. Like, we're talking like a whole multitude of things where it has just been proved time and time and again that the owner has got no money. So you have to go through an application or like a petition stage. It's made to the High Court. It's a winding up petition to ask the court to basically wind up the company. The one that has got the most information on this because of the amount of winding up orders that were issued to them is Southend. Effectively, after that application has been made, I'm right in thinking that there's a period of between 20 and 75 days where the petition has to be sent to the company and a hearing is arranged. And then after that, you're then looking at whether you should put a company into compulsory liquidation or not. A petition has to be advertised for more than 7 days before the hearing. That presumably is to put it into the public eye. That is also presumably to encourage people who are in the shadows, who are potentially looking at purchasing things, to be able to step forward and actually come to an agreement. So if you think back to, 2010 when Mandarich took over, that was there. We'd gone through that, and we were 30 minutes away from being put into a liquidation stage where Mandarich stepped forward, took the full debts on of the club, paid off the remaining debts, bought us for £1, and we moved forward. Yeah,
if people want to find that as well, it's thegazette.co.uk is where that information will be published as well, so everyone can see. And you can actually search for Sheffield Wednesday, and it indeed comes up with the one in 2010. Because I must admit, I searched it first, and I thought, shit, it's there. And then I was like, oh, no, looked at the date, I was nearly going to drop it in the Discord, but I thought, not the right time.
Yeah, not the right time for a bit of banter.
But that's where it's going to be if it does happen in the next couple of days.
Of course, and then for what you're looking at, once a winding up petition has kind of gone through and it's been advertised, the business is in effect paralysed. So, like, the bank account is frozen to avoid any effectively dissolving of set assets before a liquidator or an administration can be put into effect. So effectively you don't go, oh, this is coming, right, let me start selling all of this off and getting the money tearing out the club, because that is historically what I think has happened previously with certain clubs and certain owners, is they've known this is on the horizon because you have to advertise it. The minute that happens, there is just an immediate withdrawal of funds from the club back to the owner. And then when the administrators turn up and they go, where's your money? And they go, oh, we haven't got one. And they go, yeah, but in your bank statements, it had it 7 days ago, and now you have absolutely nothing. And they go, oh, well, I don't know what you want me to do. But it freezes kind of like the assets of it. And it doesn't usually mean that a club is effectively just shut down immediately. Like, that doesn't mean that you immediately stop trading, that you immediately, as a football club, you don't immediately stop playing games, etc., etc. You've got to go through multiple stages of this. The owner also does have a chance, like he has been trying to do over the past couple of months, according to several sources, to try and find additional funding. There is also the opportunity to try and find potential buyers for it. However, because of what happened at Leeds, there are also regulations surrounding that now in place between where is the money come from, what are the links. A club like Leeds were placed into administration for, a minute or 30 seconds or something, and then immediately taken out of it. Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
And then they got given a 12-point deduction, which is compulsory when you go into admin, and then they got a further 3, I think it was. It ended up being 15, and effectively, relegated them twice. And then, well, where they are now. But that's what happened. I mean, just on administration, it obviously it is something that Dapon himself would have to put us into. But that could well be coming. It may not be, because if that petition, the winding up petition, does get submitted, going into administration would stop the creditors from taking immediate legal action. So that would mean that the winding up order would stop at that point. It kind of buys him time to sort it out. But obviously then that does mean then the administrators come in, and if he is holding out for that big payout, that person coming that's I don't know, blind, deaf, and everything else that's not all been living under a rock and doesn't know the full extent of the situation that we're in, and gives us, the money that he's asking for. But we all know that's never going to happen. But he's not going to get anything for it because obviously administrators need paying. You end up, is it something like the secured creditors get 100% of the money when it's sold. Then I think the other creditors get 25%. So that could be your smaller businesses that we know are chasing money from Sheffield Wednesday. I don't even know if the bins have been emptied yet. I know that was a rumour at one point, but they only get kind of a quarter of
James,
them.
why is he part of Birmingham City Council?
But hey, there's a fellow. There is a Birmingham City fan in the comments somewhere.
It's Dave who I work with. It's Dave who I work with. Who's been keeping a very, very close eye on the whole situation. So evening, Joe. Evening, Dave.
So the with administration, like I said, it could well be coming, but then it kind of that does start the process of, it's very unlikely at that point that he's going to keep hold of the football club. I know that Kieran Maguire has been speaking on Radio Sheffield earlier, and there is a slim possibility, but it makes no sense as to why you'd go into administration to do that. You would just, because that involves kind of putting another a consortium together and things like that. Why don't you just do that anyway before? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense for that to happen. But do you know what, Matt? There's so many unknowns, isn't there, really, when you think about it? We literally have no clue as to what's going to happen. We don't know which direction it's going to take. All we do know is there's a game of football on Saturday down at the Valley, and other than that, we are literally left in the dark as to what's going to be happening.
I agree, and I think the other issue is obviously just going back to what you were just discussing there surrounding the administration, and obviously it has to be put in place by effectively a board of directors would have to do this. The problem is Sheffield Wednesday doesn't have a board of directors. Sheffield Wednesday has Deshvan Chansiri.
Yeah, and usually it's like when there's a board of directors. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
there, but when there is a board, this kind of usually happens when they can't really agree. Yeah, funding needs to be in place, and there's someone they can't agree on all of that, and the people that I'm not doing it. Well, I'm not, and then it kind of all falls down, and then they agree as a collective to then just put it into administration and down that way. But like you just said there, it is just him, innit?
Yeah, and ultimately we also know that he answers to absolutely nobody. So again, whilst there is potential for this to be, in the eyes of some people, really good news. And they see that Hmrc actually doing this. Because effectively, as Sheffield Wednesday fans, and as a football club in particular, the football club itself have been begging somebody to do this for a while, haven't they? We're just not paying their debts. They've just been begging for somebody to do it. I know the lending company who hold the mortgage on the 7 point whatever million it is that's owed on Hillsborough, they could have done this. But actually, when push comes to shove, and you're not part of Hmrc, that actually potentially pulling the trigger on that gun is, do you want to be known as the person who does that? And that's a really difficult moral decision to actually have to take. Hmrc take no prisoners when it comes to this type of stuff. But again, where I would say is, and it's not Chansiri being clever, it's Chansiri being an egotistical maniac. It's because he is the sole controller of all of the power. It's one of those things where you sit there and you go, well, are we going to go down the administration route? Like, is that the way that it's going to go? Or is it going to go against the quote that Deshvan Chansiri has once given to Sheffield Wednesday fans, is that I won't do anything to hurt this club? Now, you can talk about the not paying by, we've gone past all of the rest of the stuff that's happened is water under the bridge to a degree. It's not from an emotional standpoint and from a fan standpoint, but that's all gone now. We are now properly on the edge of a precipice here where we are talking about real.
I don't know if we've just lost Matt there or not, but I'll just carry on until he comes back. It looks like he might be having connection issues, or it might be me that's having those issues. I'm not too sure.
20p in the meter.
Yeah, go on, carry on, mate. I had to just kind of carry on.
No,
there. But no, you said that you were on the edge of a precipice now, and you were talking about kind of him saying that he's not going to hurt this football club, and going to carry on.
Yeah,
from that
just
point.
I suppose it's one of those where you just think, is he actually going to stick to his word, and is he going to be truthful behind that? Now, all the evidence suggests that no, he's not. He's not going to be truthful. We have a bank of evidence to suggest it, but to voluntarily put himself into administration, something that Mel Morris did do in the end. I know he was forced to, but Mel Morris at Derby did, and I know he drove a hard bargain, and then he went back on deals and all the rest of it, but ultimately the club was wrestled off his control. Where I am concerned with this particular situation is, for all we know, the man is thousands of miles away and can just wash his hands of it, and it never has to think of it ever again, and...
Yeah, you could argue that he's never really, how many other Sheffield Wednesday fans is he going to meet?
No.
Maybe none. I'm sure there is some Thailand owls. I'm sure there is some people that might holiday over there as well, and they may come across him. They might see him in Mayfair. You never know, in a swanky restaurant. But, you're right. You can just literally just walk away and leave that mess behind when he could have done that a long, long time ago. And we said on this very pod, there's been multiple opportunities for him to do that, and he would have had a little bit of credibility, a tiny ounce of that. Well, now he's gone against all his words in terms of, like you said before, about not wanting to, damage this football club and things like that. And I mean, the one that really got me was when he was saying about he'll only sell it to the right people they've got money to run this football club, and literally from that very moment, he has shown that he has absolutely no money to run the football club. Literally that came out, and then I'm sure it was days after that it came out that it would not paid the players, and then all this thing has started from there. I mean, just on when we're talking about Hmrc as well, I think. With the Derby situation, they were quite reluctant to, and we've seen in the comments before how people were saying normally 3 or 4 months down the line until they kind of take any action. They were owed a substantial amount of money by Derby. I think I was looking now, 29.3 million. It says, which is a hell of an amount of money. Obviously, the amount that we owe is a lot less, but clearly, because I don't think they got. I think they settled on a lesser figure than that, which obviously just means that the taxpayer ends up having to foot that bill ultimately. So they've clearly learned the lesson, and they're taking a stronger stance when it comes to that with us. Which again, I mean, Matt, are you happy that this has come? Are you a bit wary of it? Because a lot of people, I think my initial reaction was, it's happening. It's going to go. We're nearing the end. But as I've kind of looked into it a bit more, that kind of excitement's wore off.
It's not that straightforward, is it? It's not that straightforward. And that's kind of where I sit with it. Is I have it as it's another incredibly damning piece of evidence against the chairman. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a mark against the football club in its history. And sadly, something again we will have to live with, that 25 years down the line, not even 25, 15 years down the line, here we are again. Which I think just goes back to, you can blame Chancery for a multitude of things, and you would be absolutely right to. I think when you look into the history of it, this club has got a real deep-rooted problem with ownership, and has done for a long time, since the back end of the Premier League years all the way through. For some reason, there are people who have been attracted to this football club. There have been very few honest people who have been attracted to this football club. And my concern is, where does that book stop? Because we may well, in the next couple of weeks, months, be saved from the nightmare that is Dejphon Chancery. But how long does that last for before the next person comes in? And this is why I think, when we've been talking about owners and we've been rattling off names, etc., of like people who are out there or rumoured to be interested or have spoke up about Sheffield Wednesday, or, reputable journalists have given comments about, like, this person is reported to be interested. look at all of them that have, John Textor has spoke on us. I've been very vocal about the issues surrounding John Textor and his ownership with football. Mike Ashley, that is there for everybody to see, whether you like him or dislike him. There was obviously the consortium or the Shaw Yank redemption, who multiple people took lots of shots at in regards to the person and the individual. I'm not bracketing any of those with the current owner and the previous owners, because there have been a couple of good previous well-meaning owners. Milan Mandaric, well-meaning. Again, that he's for another day. Lee Strafford, again, very well-meaning, Sheffield Wednesday fan. Aside from that, we're littered with poor ownership. We're littered with people who look to suck the club dry of absolutely everything that they possibly could. My concern is the person who is next has to be the right person, as in clean slate. It has to be a clean slate. There has to be a line that's drawn underneath this that now says this football club, the fan base, everything connected to it has endured 26 years, realistically, 26, probably 30 years closer to, of terrible, terrible ownership over the bank of it. When is that going to end for this football club? When is it? Because at the moment, from the options that are out there, I was actually sat there the other day, and I've said it to you privately, James. For me, out of the names that we know, Mike Ashley is a devil, but he's the devil that you dance with because you know what you're getting from him. Yeah. Aside from that, the other parties that are out there, you have no idea, and there is a bank of evidence to suggest they're not the type of people you want wrapped around your football club. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, but we're in a very sad situation, and I think the situation that we're in, I don't think we're going to get the amazing owner that comes in, because it's a huge risk, isn't it? When you look at it, the potential is huge at Sheffield Wednesday, but you could also argue, well, the potential's been there for quite some time, and yet it's never been tapped into. Is there even potential there at all? Like, what is the underlying issues when it comes to Sheffield Wednesday? But also, it's going to attract people that are willing to take that risk, and they're normally not squeaky clean people. They've normally got a bit of a bad streak on them, or whatever it may be. I mean, in terms of my concerns, I said there that initially I was quite optimistic by this whole news, and then quite quickly that vanished. Well, I wouldn't say vanished, because I still think we're closer to getting rid of him. But like, for me, normally I'm an optimist, but maybe you're pessimistic. What's the word I'm looking for? Pessimism has rubbed off on me a little bit.
Realism, James, not pessimism. Yeah. Realism.
But I look at this, and he's not. Well, he hasn't paid HMRC, but yet he's paid the players. And I look at that and I think, obviously, yes, morally, the players, and let me just remove all of that emotion out of it for a second. Let's just say there's someone that needs to be paid there and someone that needs to be paid here. Like the HMRC is not paid that one, and then we're now talking about the club not existing. I just wonder. For me, the question is, why did he choose to pay the players and not pay HMRC? Because I mean this in the nicest way, Matt. But if I owed you 500 quid, but I also had my mortgage payment coming up, I'm sorry, Matt, you're gonna have to wait another month for that £500, because I could potentially have my house taken off me if I don't pay. And that's a similar sort of thing. And I just think I don't know whether kind of his administration what he's wanting. I mean, there's a tweet that's just come through from Lee Strafford, who we were mentioning just a minute ago. He says deja vu. This is in response to what your initial reaction was. Deja vu all over again. Fakeover attempt to follow. And we've heard that word quite a bit recently. If you've been looking, it's not everywhere, but if you've been looking, some people have popped up and said, a fakeover. And for people that are wondering what one of those is, it's whereby people come in and there's a takeover that happens, and effectively the people behind the scenes are still
musical
exactly
chairs. Yeah, it's musical chairs, isn't it?
It's exactly the same people. It's just that it looks like there's been a takeover that's happened, but the people behind that you don't see are still exactly the same people. It's just a new face of the football club, and I suppose only time will tell in that regards as to whether that is what's going to happen. But certainly, a few people are saying that this is playing straight into the story of how that's going to happen. Like things have fallen into place and they've all kind of gone according to plan so far. And that is I hope that doesn't happen. I do hope that a new owner comes in and we're out of this. But I think we're just in a whole world of pain. I don't want to kind of put the mockers on everyone, because I think quite a lot of people have been quite optimistic about all this. But that's purely how, from the information that people have told me, and it does get you thinking, Matt, I must admit.
Yeah, no, I think just going back to your players' point when you were talking about kind of like the mortgage payments and owing somebody else money, the reason why the players have been paid is so that if by some miracle he does manage to find investment and cling on, he's got assets to sell. Like the club he can regenerate some money, because also we know that assets have been played. That has been confirmed by, current club captain Barry Bannon, that are assets that are at the football club, the ones who are worth some level of monetary value. A tax bill, for argument's sake, in the case of Jan Valery or Max Lowe, they've been paid on time. Because you could, push come to shove, you're in a transfer window, you get to there. If he is still there by January and this hasn't been issued or anything like that, expect one of those to go. Like, expect one of those to be sold to be able to pay off the debts. I think I'm just going to highlight this comment from Amber here, which is, what is his advisor's role in all of this? And I wonder if Dej has also been taken for a ride on deals. I think this is true, but I think you do there have to potentially go to look at the individuals who were involved in and around the early period of Dej's reign. And I'm not just talking about Amadou Pakshaw here. There are a number of people where, if you are so interested, you can find the photographs, you can find the information on those people who were linked around the football club. They're not football people. They never were. They never have been. They aren't still now. But all of them have been involved at Sheffield Wednesday for a long, long time. Whether they're still involved or not, who knows? That's up for debate. But they were certainly there in the beginning at us. And they were certainly there in the beginning at the Reading deal as well. Those characters and those individuals, I'm sure, will see their day in public court at some point. And you sit there and you just think, well, actually, how are they going to learn from the mistakes that were made at Reading? Because I know when the two deals were made, the EFL obviously didn't find any connection between the two. But there are just a lot of connections between those two football clubs, and the way and also, James, the way in which that it's crumbling is almost identical. The way in which that it is crumbling and the individual who it is crumbling around, it's identical. Exactly.
He always said that he wanted to be like a Reading. He did. They were these words that came out of his mouth. They were under embargo and they nearly got the playoffs. So he keeps them in high esteem. I just want to bring this one up from Natalie. Chansiri will be banned from being a director, so hopefully won't be able to recycle the club. Well, that's the idea of the fakeover, is that he is effectively no longer involved. According to his name is not above the above the pub, above the entrance to the pub. His name's not there anymore.
And the licensee. It is quite literally Series 2 Phoenix Knights.
Do you know what I saw someone said about Phoenix Club, and I thought he actually meant Phoenix Knights. What he's actually referring to is a new football club. I straight away went to Phoenix Knights for when I.
Sorry, James, to cut you here. Let me just put it into the context for people who are Phoenix Knights fans and trying to think about how the fuck does that work. It's when Brian Potter has his license taken away from him because the club burns down. And he puts Jerry St. Clair in to be the new licensee, but actually he's the one who's always making the decisions. That's kind of how it works.
It's just the Phoenix Knights playing out straight in front of our eyes, exactly. In front of our very eyes. Yeah, I mean, it's just the situation we find ourselves in. Once again, is just really, really, really sad. I think, in all honesty, I just want to read. Just when it comes to kind of like a lot of people be asking about takeovers and stuff, and Joe Cran did an interview with Professor Rob Wilson, who is a professor of applied sports finance. So whatever that means. This is regarding administration. I'll just read it just if people haven't. It's from a couple of months ago. He says, while many think of administration as a last resort, particularly given the points sanction that would follow, it actually presents the best outcome for the club and its supporters base. Though it will adversely affect the current owner and his own financial future, while administration points to financial instability and could see some key assets undervalued or sold under pressure, the process would actually enable Sheffield Wednesday to reset its financial liabilities and enable the EFL to intervene and support the sales process and secure a new level of investment or ownership that stabilises the club in the medium term. He then goes on to say, ultimately what is clear is that the club lacks both the liquidity and revenue to maintain its own financial operations. It is operating a hand-to-mouth existence which benefits no stakeholder, fans, employees, players, or the owner. So, where do we go from here, Matt? What's your initial? I asked this question just a matter of days ago to you on Sunday. I'm sure I asked the same thing. Obviously, then we were talking about the independent regulator. Now we're talking about something I never thought it would happen. I genuinely didn't think that we would be here sat talking about a potential winding up order. Like that's where we are.
Again, I still stick to my guns on what I mentioned on obviously Sunday's pod when you asked me the same question. I don't think he'll be here by the end of the season. How that plays out and how that happens, I'm not sure. Now, I think on Sunday, had you asked me it, I would have said that actually there is some degree of the independent football regulator, and this is obviously another outcome that this could still go down, is that actually this news breaking is actually 15 days before the independent football regulator comes into power. I know that the process does take time, and I know that the Trust have spoken about this, in particular Ian Bennett, who gave an interview to Radio Sheffield about it, and he said that that this isn't necessarily a quick process, and it's actually the time frame of where that happens. If you're looking at it in that light of it, the EFL, Hmrc and the winding up order are all setting your ducks in a row for an independent football regulator to walk in day one and go, look at this bank of evidence. We've done all of the collecting for you. Here, have a gift-wrapped first day and a first club to literally just throw your new powers at and test it at and see how difficult it is to get an owner out. Because you are not going to find, after the independent football regulator comes in, you are not going to find clubs in the same financial state that we are. We are very much the last bastion or the last outpost you would like to think of this, because football owners will realise, shit, I'm about to hit the skids here, right, let me get out quick. And they'll try to recoup some of that money, because that is what the independent football regulator is for. The other way that this goes is this plays out the same way as, say, for argument's sake, Blackpool, Reading, where this goes on for another 18 months and it's fought and bits and pieces through here. Sheffield Wednesday will obviously be relegated from the Championship if this continues. Sheffield Wednesday will also probably then struggle to maintain in League One. Ultimately, we end up in a Bolton situation where in League Two, an owner finally comes to his senses, they get themselves automatically sorted, and we all end up going, right, there's a new owner here. The other one is, and this is the real dark reality, and my personal belief is I don't think we will end up here. The other way is we are a ticking countdown timer on Sky Sports News to when Sheffield Wednesday is eventually wound up. And I don't, my personal opinion is I don't see that, and I think that's for somebody who is described as being a pessimist and not a realist. But I mean, it is like I don't see that currently. I don't see. I think there are too many people with too many invested stakes on seeing this club survive. Yeah, and let's also not kid ourselves. This is no disrespect to any of those other clubs. In terms of a name and a stature and what the football club represents to English football as a whole, the club is. If you let this go, you might as well. Everybody else might as well just pack up and go home. Like you might as well. Well,
it's in black and white. You can say we are a bigger club than the others. It's not to say that it shouldn't happen because we are bigger, but it would be a huge embarrassment to the EFL if a club like Sheffield Wednesday was to go under effectively on their watch.
Yeah,
and that they've not been able to, the government have not been able to put through this independent regulator to stop that from happening quick enough. They've not done anything. About it really. I mean, you were mentioning there, in terms of like talking about other clubs, and we could potentially be like another Bolton Wanderers or things like that. I mean, I just I think when you look, I find it really ironic how Depon mentioned how our money doesn't go anywhere. As in fans' money. I don't need your money. It means nothing to me. Your money, and I find it really ironic how all right he ran out of money before the boycott started, and they're not spending money in the shop and things like that, not buying additional tickets and etc. etc. But now I suppose it just proves that the boycotts are working, because had we have gone to the Leeds game en masse, had we have gone to the Grimsby game as well, had we have spent, I mean, I don't know how much he gets for the shirts, but I've literally seen. I'll go to the match. Oh, well, we're not going to the match on next Wednesday, but you go to the match the following Saturday, which I think is against Oxford.
Yes.
Have a count of how many blue and white new shirts you see.
There's none.
If you see more than 5, you've done well. And if you see more than 5 adults wearing one, well, then that's just not going to happen. If you see 5, it'll probably be 5 kids. Let's be honest about it.
Or DH Gate.
Or DHK, but you're not, like, point taken is that a normal season, well, last season you would have seen loads of people wearing the new shirt. It'd been absolutely everywhere. But so it clearly is working what we're doing. It's clearly defunding him. And again, it will come on to that point, the season tickets as well. I was thinking, you mentioned it at the weekend, how you feel like it's going to be some sort of price freeze, Matt. If he is still here, I mean, I'm surprised it's not come out today. Because if you put season tickets out today, there would be people out there, just like there were when people tried to bail him out with the tax bill that time, with the GoFundMe.
Yeah,
I feel like there would be people there that honestly that would be like, I've got to buy it because my club's burning down. but it is though. Do you know what I mean? Like the people will. And I do honestly feel, I think when the season tickets come out, I've got a sneaky suspicion that he's going to do some sort of deal. I know you said you don't think he is, but if I was in that situation, I would. Do you know what I mean? If I'm backed into a corner and I need the money desperately, and I know people aren't, you hear what people are talking about, and I know social media, people will say something, and what they say and what they do is totally different. But you're going to look and you think, well, they said they weren't going to come to Leeds, and they didn't. In all intents and purposes, you're going to think, if I put these season tickets out at the 470 or 570 or whatever it is, I'm literally not going to sell any. If I put them at half price, people will. It's playing with people's emotional heartstrings, if you know what I mean.
I do get what you're saying. I just think, I think you are potentially here. The emotional manipulation from the situation, I think, had you released them, you would have had to have released them this morning before the news was broken, because ultimately, according to various different contacts that myself and you have, people had this news yesterday and were putting a story together and going through multiple sources to fact check it before putting the story out. I don't know. I just look at it and just think. Now, what are you buying? You're not necessarily buying a season ticket. And again, I don't want to be catastrophic here, but let's just look at the evidence that is in front of us and the speed that this has all happened. Are those fixtures actually going to be fulfilled if you bought a season ticket next year? I don't know at this point. I can't 100% confidently, hand on heart. I have my opinion, but I don't think you can comfortably 100% hand on heart say that that's going to happen. I think the other thing is, whilst you're playing on people's emotional heartstrings and all the rest of it, people aren't fucking idiots. And it then becomes, right, what are we going to do? And it's also an immediate cash grab. It's an immediate cash grab that you would presume EFL or IFR would do something about and step in.
Well, this is a great point from J Brawl 10. Season ticket sales now are a risk that you lose your money.
Yeah,
I suppose there's a risk of, I know people talk about trading insolvently and stuff. I'm sure that will be frowned upon massively if you've got a potential winding up order and then you're selling something for next year, knowing full well that it might not even happen, then I'm sure maybe that's why season tickets haven't come out yet, because because we're under this sort of mess. Maybe the EFL have told him that you can't do that. Although saying that, whenever does he listen? He doesn't seem to listen at all, does he?
I know, but also, James, the other thing is he's not here. He's not fielding calls from people. That is said and backed up by the documents within the HMRC stuff of like.
Other than Hmrc, he keeps talking to Hmrc. Don't forget.
I would assume he does, because who the fuck else have you got in this situation that you desperately need to keep on side? I've been quite vocal in certain other podcasts about people who work behind the scenes at the football club. You can't honestly tell me now, hand on heart, that those individuals who are working at the football club, who will have a line of contact to the chairman, are going to action anything fucking quickly that the chairman says. You wouldn't, would you? Because why? Why would you? You're going to drag your heels over it, etc., etc.
This has been met with probably the exact response that I thought it would get. KD Tech says we need to fill the ground now and save the club ourselves. He'll be gone when the IFR takes effect. I'll not read out all the comments, but you can probably tell as to what the comments have been. Alex says, have either of you phoned the club to ask to speak to Braithwaite or Wilson? No, they ring me when I've said something, so I don't need to ring them.
But also, I mean, nicest will in the world. I mean, and again, I've just spoken about the two, people who work at the club. Those are two individuals who work at the club. This isn't their fault. This particular instance is not their fault. This is not their remit. You can have a go at them for tickets. You can have a go at them for the media that people are putting out, the statements, etc. This is on one man.
Yeah, I feel like one, he's very manipulative. Is our Dapon?
Yeah, massively.
And also as well, the staff are being, as I mentioned before, all the way through, all the staff that work at Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, the vast majority will be Sheffield Wednesday fans, and it's almost like your dream job to work for the club that you love. Yep. And I suppose they don't know when the end's going to be. The end could be tomorrow. The end could be 6 months, a year. I don't know. But we're talking. They could be thinking that 12 months ago, if you know what I mean. Like, they've no idea when the end could be tomorrow, and it could all be done and sorted. And I go back to kind of, people might be saying, well, just get another job or do this, that, and the other. But it's not as easy as that, because if you do get another job and then it gets all sorted out, and then it is your dream job, and then you're seeing someone else doing the job that you were doing, and you're thinking, well, I should be there when it's all sorted. Again, you hope that it gets sorted before it becomes a huge problem, but it's just not.
I think potentially just on that, James, because I know obviously we've gone on for quite a while about this. I think now is the time where I would genuinely look at it and go, if you are working there, again, I can only talk about what I would be doing myself. Things are now genuinely very serious. It's not just, it was serious before. I'm not trying to say that it wasn't, you weren't being paid, etc. You're now talking about a creditor coming in. You're now talking about, genuinely, government mandated people getting involved. You're talking about administration here. Regardless of whether you are there or not, or whether you love the club or anything like that, there may actually not be a job there for you regardless. So now is the time that if it was me personally, I would be going, right, this is where I'm drawing the line. Now I've got to start looking.
Yeah, I don't know what's gone off in the comments, but everyone's talking about statues and naming stands after people. The Ernie Presto Tools Weaver stand is what James says. I've no idea what's gone off in there, but yeah. I mean, before we wrap things up, Matt, I suppose, I suppose the end is, we are closer to the end than we perhaps ever have been, haven't we? But I suppose the message is maybe let's not get too excited just yet. I suppose, talking about getting excited, Matt, that's what I was going to say. What are the celebrations? Let's put a little bit of a positive spin to finish on. What are the celebrations going to? What are you going to be doing? Tomorrow there's a corner flag. It will be a corner flag, I'm sure, or a letter from the chairman or whatever it's going to be, and it's going to come out that the club has been sold to someone else, whoever it's going to be. Let's say it's a good owner. A good owner has come in and we've been taken over. What are you doing? It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's been said.
What am I doing at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow is registering all the students who I'm taking out on a trip. Then what am I doing is sit there just buzzing with excitement whilst on said trip. Then what am I doing is counting down on the phone to see what on earth time that this can finish at. Then literally the minute that it is finished, what time's kick off at Charlton? 3 o'clock? Yeah. Good luck. Good luck for making that. I'll be straight with you.
It will be a party atmosphere, won't it, really? I think,
yeah.
And just a huge... I think you'll be able to hear this... I mean, to be fair, you'll be able to hear the sigh of relief coming from Sheffield 6, I think, collectively, as everyone just goes, oh, thank God it's over. Like, do you know what I mean? I think that's the first thing I don't know if I might even... Because obviously I've been so... I know you said it happened in 2010. I've been so invested into this. We both have.
Yeah.
It's the amount of hours spent. Yeah, spent on this. More than I've done in previous times. I think I might even let out a little cry. To be honest, I don't think I'll be able to hold my emotions in if I'm being honest with myself.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be very similar to. It will effectively be so. The reason why I've spoken about the Charlton game before, and one it's what the fact that it's one of my favourite away days. But another one of the reasons why is because it was the first ground that Sheffield Wednesday fans were in attendance for and watched Sheffield Wednesday post-COVID. Of a very incredibly unsettling time for all or every single person for a number of different reasons. That game was incredibly emotional. The game was shit. It was 0-0. I don't know if you remember. It was 5:15 on Sky. It was dog shit. I think there was one shot in the game, which was Bannon, which was a P-roller and went wide.
Is that the one where Pato gets booted in the head? Or
I remember Andre Green played for us and Darren Moore came and clapped an away end. But prior to that game, where you were talking about like that overriding sense of emotion and like welling up a little bit surrounding it. Genuinely, before that game, that was kind of how I felt about it all, because this is such a huge portion of size and chunk of everybody's life who is connected to it. It's 8:56 on a Thursday and there are 3,000 people watching. It's one of those where I'm sat there and I'm thinking, at this point now, if that was announced tomorrow, it doesn't matter what happens to the rest of the season. I actually genuinely think you got a good chance of survival because of the wave of positivity that follows you. You make a fight of it, at least, including a points deduction or whatever it is that you get. You actually make a fight of it because there is just that sheer crest of a wave of just relief that washes over everybody. Hillsborough would be a good place to attend again. It would. Yeah. I'd actually look forward to going to spend time up there, and actually, not the people who are around it, because I always look forward to seeing them, but the 90 minutes of actually the product on the pitch. And it's going to be a very good day. That is going to be I'll be honest, James, that is going to be a very enjoyable emergency pod that evening. That is going to be a very enjoyable emergency pod.
I've just been told, stay on till 9, news coming out on X from both Miller and Staten. I don't know if...
here we are for 3 more minutes. Anyway, James, we didn't do a game preview at the weekend, James, so how do you feel we're going to get...
I don't know if someone's having me on there or not, or I've no idea. But I mean, we might as well find out what it's going to be. This could be transfer deadline day all over again.
Oh my God!
Waiting for...
Oh my God! Can you imagine if this is deadline day all over again when we get here and then it's like? So anyway, not a lot's happening.
Artie said, "How's the weather?"
I'll be honest with you, Artie. Down here, clear. Cold and crisp, but clear. I can answer Ian's comment in the chat here about the pubs for Saturday. There is one designated away pub for Charlton away. It's called the Angerstein Hotel. It's the train station stop before Charlton. So if you are going, you want to get off on the station before Charlton. It's just around the corner from there. But I would imagine there will be a lot of Sheffield Wednesday fans who will be in London Bridge as well, because it's only 20 minutes by train to there. If you are heading down to the Angerstein Hotel, I would recommend getting there fairly early, because it does get very, very busy. But it is legitimately, I'm in this, nicest will in the world, James, and I don't want to be horrible, absolute shithole. But what a shithole it is! It is.
I'm just looking at it now. Is it like blue and like blue paint?
Oh yeah, it's right on the ringway. It's a hotel, like a proper old school hotel. You'd find it in Blackpool B&B type of style.
It's like Fawlty Towers.
Very much so. It's great. They've got a buffet on that's free. It's wonderful. It's such a great place.
And it's what, a stone's throw away from from the Valley, is it?
It's a 15-minute walk or a one stop on the overground, so 3 minutes via the overground. So yeah, it's a really convenient pub. But London Bridge is the place where I would imagine most Wednesday fans head to begin with, and usually there is a number of people around there.
Yeah, I was looking actually. Yeah, it's not far at all to to get from there. You say it's your favourite away day as well, aren't you?
Yeah, massively. It's, I'm a huge fan of it in general. I know there's been a lot of talk in the last 48 hours surrounding away tickets and all the rest of it. And I know you did a huge, big debate show yesterday, which for anybody who hasn't listened to it, please do go back and listen to it. There were fantastic points that were made on both sides of the argument. Genuinely, both sides of the argument was wonderful.
Yeah, just on that, I was a little bit... The reason why I did the whole topic on that is because obviously I put the tweet out and then there was a whole host of people saying like they need to boycott it, and I thought, well, do you know what? Debate show's on a Wednesday. Let's talk about it. And then it was just a bit of a. I thought there were more, for the how many people were actually, so how emotional people were about it all and about how. Not attending these away games.
Yeah.
I thought there'd be more people on to actually say that, but everyone that came on were kind of in favour of going really and stuff like that. So I was a little bit, I thought there'd be more of them, but it's it is what it is. We're still waiting for this this news to potentially drop. So I've no idea what it's going to be. I suppose what I could do is mention that. Saturday, obviously it's Charlton. You'll be there, but I will be doing a watch along. So make sure you join us for that one. I've done one for we did one for the Grimsby game. We did one for Birmingham as well. So a good laugh. So if you're not going, join me for that one. I'll be live from 2:30. At which point Matt will have sunk a fair few beers. I'm sure he will have by that point, and trying to get into the Valley. Well, what time do you normally to stagger into the ground? Are you one for getting in early and soaking up the atmosphere, or are you one for literally a minute before?
No, I'll get there a sensible time beforehand. I'm looking for 15 minutes beforehand, because anybody who hasn't been to Charlton, the away concourse is appalling. It's Hillsborough QPR-esque. It's really not designed to house 4,000 fans. It's very very time consuming getting through there. So yeah, it's for my money, any day out in London is a good day with following this football team. But yeah, I'm one of those, James, who will want to turn up 15 minutes before. But yeah, that does mean that I think it's the 8:20 train in the morning that I'm on. Does give an awful lot of time to sup a couple of nice cold waters.
As if it's going to be waters. Actually, on that, Hulking Hilo says, "What are we drinking, Matt?"
Oh, it's a very good question. Undecided as of yet. Really undecided as of yet. Who knows? I'll make a decision on the day. It's my dad who's in charge of beverages for the train on Friday. So on Saturday. Sorry. So what that will usually mean is that he turns up and goes, "Oh, I haven't got anything. Sorry, I didn't realise you wanted something for this time of the morning." And then I'll have to go, for fuck's sake, and dash as quick as I can to a shop.
And get some. We'll stay on for 5 minutes, but just on the game on Saturday, let's talk about football for a moment.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts? Because obviously Ernie Weaver's out injured. That's a massive blow. I think Rio Shipston's out, but obviously he's not really featured at all. To be honest, there's no real news on Shalabar coming back. Charles isn't near coming back either. I think Kabatsky's also out injured still. So there's no players coming in. So it's kind of what we've got. Hmrc was, I think, on a plane back. I don't know if he posted that a little bit late or not, but I saw that was kind of earlier on today. So I'm not sure whether he's going to be. He didn't play, did he, in the second game? So he's not like he's tired from a physical point of view, but he might be, just the travelling and
just drained
and stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether he's going to be playing either. So I'm really not sure what to expect. And having spoken to the Charlton fan, who is probably the most positive Charlton fan I've ever met in my entire life, I thought we were going to get, when I was speaking to him, I thought honestly we were playing Real Madrid.
You were like, hang on, these lot might win it all. These lot might win the league. These.
I was just talking Nathan Jones. I think there's already a statue of him outside Charlton already.
Yeah,
they love him out there.
Yeah, they've bought into the Nathan Jones rhetoric, let's put it nicely, because that is what he is as a manager. He did it at Luton into incredibly success, and he's done it at Charlton, to be fair. You've got to kind of hand it to him and credit to him, even though I'm not a huge fan of his antics, of kind of the way he goes off. But anybody who knee slides in front of what's the stand where the benches are at Bramall Lane? I can't remember.
The pigsty.
Yeah, shithole.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of time for anybody who does a knee slide in front of Chris Wilder on his homecoming in the 90th minute, to be perfectly honest with you. Again, James, I think the defensive line is obviously the worry, because you would imagine that it will be Gabe Otegbayo who comes back in, and we know that there is, from the evidence that we've got over this season, there is a drop-off between himself and Ernie Weaver with Dominic Iorfa and the rest of it. I think.
Would you stick Palmer in there instead?
No, I wouldn't. I would keep Palmer playing out on the right, potentially. I think you could play him central, but again, I think for me, I don't think you're not going to want to touch something and break something that doesn't need. You're not going to need to fix something that doesn't need fixing. He's played fantastically well out on the right, so I'm keeping him there.
I think also as well, if you do that, then Valerie has to then play right wing back, and then that causes another problem in itself, because I feel like Valerie's been playing quite well in there. I think my issue is it's going to be quite a physical game, I think, on Saturday. That certainly from what the Charlton fan was telling me. So I feel like have we got that in us to play a physical game? I'm not too sure. We haven't got the Pattersons. We haven't got the, Aidan Flint, for example. It's, the centre back offerings we've got. Max Lowe, Gabe Otegbayo, and Dom Iorfa. They're not the absolute meatheads that just take ball and man and and up for a bit of a rough and tumble. I'm not saying their strikers are those sorts of players, but I don't know. And then when you're looking at Jamal Lowe, is he up for a bit of a? I think when he gets a little bit frustrated, I think at times when it gets difficult for him. And then again, Hmrc, or is it Brown who plays up there? I don't know. I just don't.
I understand what you're saying, James. It's just I look at the Portsmouth game and they pose a very similar proposition to Portsmouth, in terms of Portsmouth were not a fantastic footballing side by any stretch of the imagination, but tried to go long with the ball and make it a more physical battle in that area, and we coped with that really well. I know Ernie Weaver played well. I would like to see George Brown start, because I think if you start in George Brown, Hmrc, if he's fine to go after the international break, I think that gives you the best chance of a physical presence on the break and playing out from the back, and you can go long as well. Who knows, James? It'll be an interesting day out.
Yeah, Jay Brawl says low block and counter. Alex says, Matt, get James's Budweisers from his fridge. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, that would be quite funny.
There is only 3 of them. I did drink one, but they're still there. They are still there. It will be a monumental moment when they come out of the fridge. We all know what's going to be happening there. Right, let's wrap things up. I'm sure as soon as I hit that end stream button, whatever it is that was going to come out will probably come out. It is what it is, whatever. Thanks everyone for jumping on. Really do appreciate it, getting involved in the comments and stuff. I hope this it's been good just to talk about it and thrash out some ideas and things, which is always always good in these times. But yeah, we'll be back on Saturday afternoon for the watch along. Myself and Matt will be back on Sunday talking about win, lose or draw, or I don't know, wound up Sheffield Wednesday, whatever it might be come then, or I have no idea what it's going to be. But no, thank you very much everyone, and we'll see you all next time. Cheers.